that ended the autocratic rule of President Lee Seung-man. The Prime Minister was speaking at the April 19th National Cemetery in northern Seoul. Hosted by the Ministry of Patriots and Veterans Affairs, the ceremony was attended by some 2,500 people, including the relatives of people who lost their lives in the struggle. The official theme was Democracy, a path we walk together, a path the people walk together. President Moon Jae-in also visited the cemetery earlier in the day to pay tribute to those killed, hurt, and/or disappeared by the government at the time. President Moon vowed to pass on the spirit of the revolution and make South Korea a fair and just nation. Korea's producer prices rose slightly on month in January and February, usually a sign that consumer prices will rise down the road. But in March, according to the Bank of Korea's preliminary data, producer prices held steady. Our Kim Hye-sung has the details.
South Korea's producer prices stayed steady in March from the previous month as agricultural product prices stabilized. The Bank of Korea says last month's producer price index, a barometer of future consumer inflation, reached 104.07, slightly above February's figure. On year, the index is up 1.4%, marking 17 consecutive months of gains since November 2016. Prices of agricultural products fell 0.4% on month, a sharp turnaround from February's 9.2% spike that was caused by soaring demand during the Lunar New Year holiday and a drop in supply caused by the cold weather. Prices of peppers fell by almost 50% in March, and prices of green chilies and strawberries fell by over 20%. Fresh food prices also dropped 1.4% as supply went up. Prices of industrial goods remained unchanged in March from a month earlier, with prices of metal products going up 0.6% and electronic goods falling by 0.6%. Service prices edged up 0.1% on the back of higher restaurant and accommodation prices. Kim Hye-sung, Arirang News.
For the first time in nearly 60 years, Cuba is set to get a leader who is not a member of the Castro family. That's Miguel Diaz-Canel, a relatively unknown official who rose through the ranks of the Communist Party over the course of 30 years. He'll be taking over from Raul Castro on Thursday after a vote by Cuba's National Assembly, a formality really since Diaz-Canel is the only candidate. Noah Ram has the details.
Raul Castro was due to step down on Thursday after 2 5-year terms. He was frequently seen as a dictator who might have actually wanted to stay in power for longer, but he did announce his departure several years ago. He took over from his brother Fidel Castro, who ruled Cuba for nearly 5 decades until a terminal illness forced him to step aside. On Wednesday, the Cuban parliament approved 57-year-old Miguel Diaz-Canel as the sole candidate to succeed President Castro, which would ensure the continuation of Cuba's single-party system. Lawmakers will vote for 30 other members of Cuba's State Council, as well as the new president, with results to be announced on Thursday. It is almost certain lawmakers will vote for Diaz-Canel, and he is set to be sworn in after Thursday's announcement. President Castro, meanwhile, will stay on as the head of the country's Communist Party until its next Congress in 2021. This means he and the party's top brass will still hold considerable power. Diaz-Canel would be taking the helm of a country that is in economic stagnation and with a younger generation that wants change. His short-term goal would be breathing life into the creaking economy. Any major reforms and strategic decisions, such as the relationship with the United States, would come gradually. Relations between Havana and Washington improved during the Obama administration, but soured again after President Trump reimposed certain travel and trade restrictions eased by his predecessor. But while Castro remains the head of the country's Communist Party, any major decisions Diaz-Canel makes will likely need Castro's blessing. Noah Ram, Arirang News.
I'm Devin Whiting, and those are your news headlines for this hour.
Expectations are higher than ever for a major breakthrough during the series of upcoming summits with North Korea, with the first one coming up between the leaders of the two Koreas next Friday. A high-level South Korean official confirmed on Wednesday that Seoul may seek to formally end the Korean War by establishing a peace treaty with North Korea. Our Kim Mo-kyun tells us more.
At the upcoming Inter-Korean Summit, the presidential office of Cheong Wa Dae is looking for a way to achieve a peace treaty between the two Koreas. Hostilities in the Korean War ended not with a formal peace, but with an armistice, which means South and North are technically still at war. A high-level official said in the briefing on Wednesday that the South Korean government is looking into the possibility of a formal peace treaty. The official hinted that what could happen is that an agreement is reached between the two Koreas at the Inter-Korean Summit, and then a formal end to the Korean War is declared at the summit between the United States and North Korea. But the official underscored that this would need to be discussed thoroughly by all the parties directly involved. This announcement comes in response to comments made by President Trump during his 2 days of talks this week with Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, in which he said that the two Koreas are discussing an end to the Korean War. As for the main agenda of the summit, denuclearization, the chief of the National Security Office, Chung Eui-yong, announced on Wednesday that Seoul and Washington are considering ways to reward Pyongyang should it really decide to denuclearize. One of which is removing what North Korea says are its own concerns about its security. Chung was asked whether denuclearization could have different meanings to the different sides involved in the talks, but he said he doesn't see that as a case. Chung added that while there might be differences in terms of the details, when it comes to the big picture, Seoul, Washington, and Pyongyang do not see denuclearization that differently, so a nuclear-free peninsula is not an unreachable goal. Kim Mo-gyun, Arirang News.
And to tell us more about this, Professor Shin Sang-hyuk from Kyung University joins us in the studio today. So good to see you.
Pleased to be here today.
All right, so what would a peace treaty mean for the two Koreas? And also, have there been any efforts made in the past for a peace treaty between the two Koreas?
In 2007, when Roh Moo-hyun was the president of Korea, there was a summit meeting between the South Korean President Roh Moo-hyun and North Korean leader Kim Jong-il. At the time, both leaders agreed to have formally end the Korean War, and then they thought that it could be a first step toward permanent peace on the Korean Peninsula. But as you know very well, after that declaration, October 4, 10-4 declaration, and the government was changed in South Korea.
Right.
President Lee Myung-bak was elected as a president, and at the same time also there was some tragic accident occurred. There was one South Korean tourist was shot to death when she traveled the Kaesong area. So since the tragic accident, incident, the relations between two Korea was frozen. So in the middle of those kind of the relations with high tensions, the efforts just eroded away. So this time, actually, as you know very well, the coming 27th, April 27th, there will be the summit meeting between President Moon Jae-in and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. And then it was reported that South Korean government wanted to have a chance to made the formal declaration ending the Korean War, along with the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. And the South Korean president and South Korean government want to have the milestone by ending the Korean War formally for the permanent peace treaty on the Korean Peninsula. And then I'm going to explain it later, but by having the successful outcome at the summit meeting between two Korean leaders, that could be very helpful for the productive outcomes and results at the coming the summit meeting between USA President Mr. Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un.
So President Moon Jae-in will be more than determined, I guess, now to have this actually work out, because he's seen what happened before as the administrations changed.
Certainly, he wants to finalize all these procedures within his tenure.
All right. And now, if the two Koreas agree on a peace treaty and formally end the Korean War, obviously this is going to mean something for the international community as well, right?
Yes, at the moment in the world, Korea is only one remaining divided country because of ideological conflicts. And by declare the end of the Korean War, it could be a quite negative, positive, the influences over not only the regional security, in South East and Asian security reasons, but also the other reasons, so-called the spread effects, spillover effects. And definitely it itself gives us many meanings to all global community. And then, as I said before, by having the event, definitely I think that it will be a first step toward permanent peace on the Korean Peninsula. Because, as you know very well, in the coming June, or according to the report, it can be one day end of the May. But at the summit meeting between USA President and the North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, well, by having a summit meeting with the recognition that South and North Korea declare the end of Korean War, maybe the USA president could understand it as kind of some advancing in the contact in negotiation with North Korea for solving the nuclear crisis of North Korea.
So at this point, what does the South Korean government have in mind? What kind of roadmap does it have in mind in regards to the peace treaty as well as denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula?
Yes, certainly they seems to have a three-stage plans. That means the first step is to formally declare the end of Korean War. And then secondly, by having the summit meeting between, let the USA and North Korea have the summit meeting, they could make a progress. Of course, the USA government has emphasized that denuclearization of North Korea should be the first.
Right.
And then if Kim Jong-un, North Korean leader, accepted those kind of suggestions from North Korea, if he declare give up his nuclear program, then certainly everything could happen at one time.
Right.
So maybe in this context, by having the formal ending of the Korean War, maybe we can say that there must be more possibility of having a successful outcomes at the summit meeting between USA and North Korea. And if USA and North Korea have a very productive outcome at the summit meeting, the next step could be maybe the four-party talks or three-party talks. With the participation of China and the USA, of course, the South and North Korea, we can sign on the peace treaty, which means to build the permanent peace on the Korean Peninsula. I think this can be a three-stage scenario which South Korean government has at the moment.
So I think that I might be stretching this a little bit, but what are the chances then for us to see a possible establishment of diplomatic relations between the U.S. and North Korea?
I think well, who is taking the driver's seat at the moment? I think North Korean leader Kim Jong-un.
Okay.
As I already explained before, USA government has made it clear many times whenever they have a chance, opportunities, denuclearization of North Korea is the prerequisite for successful the outcomes at the summit meeting. So if North Korea, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un changed his mind, well, give up their nuclear programs, I think that can be a turning point in the relations between USA and the North Korea, and between the China and USA, and between Korea and China.
Right.
So that can be a turning point in the relations in the region, not only in the region, but also in the world.
So you're saying that North Korea is now in the driver's seat, meaning that it's really up to North Korea for the success of all these summits?
Yeah, because as I said before, USA has made it clear their stance. They said that, under the threat of the direct attack from North Korea, the USA could not be flexible in their stance toward North Korean nuclear crisis. That means denuclearization of North Korea should be the precondition for having a successful the summit meeting between two countries.
All right, so things are moving very rapidly involving North Korea, considering that only like a few months ago, Washington and Pyongyang have been trading threats of war, and now they're getting ready for a bilateral summit between the two leaders of these two countries. So although not a lot has been made public right now, how far do you think the countries, the two Koreas and the United States, have gone in terms of negotiations and discussions over denuclearization?
There must be some on the advancement in the negotiations, because it was reported that the very high government officials in USA, new Secretary of State,
right, Mike Pompeo.
He visited North Korea. He met with Kim Jong-un
in Pyongyang,
and over the Easter weekend. So what they discussed, I mean, it was reported that they discussed about the agenda at the summit meeting and then places for the summit meeting, something like that. But I think there was more discussion. That means that maybe they just tried to check it out, each other's stance about the denuclearization of North Korea. Maybe officially, even North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, from time to time, he said that he has an intention to give up their nuclear programs, but on the part of USA, definitely they want to reconfirm the North Korean leader's stance about this issue before having a summit meeting. And the North Korea, they want to check it out, what kind of things they could expect from the summit meeting with the President Trump, because Mr. Trump has been very hostile against the North Korea. So maybe it's a matter of the expression. Maybe we are talking about peace treaty, but on the part of North Korea, they maybe ask the USA to stop hostile measures against North Korea. Even though they cannot sign on the peace treaty, but if USA has the intention to stop the hostile activities against the North Korea, it could be one of the very important things for the North Korean government. Of course, on the part of the USA, denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. So there must be some point, a conflicting point between two governments, but at this stage they want to check it out, how much possibility there are to expect a change, change each other's stance about this issue.
Okay. Now, there are some experts saying that all this matter regarding North Korea needs to be taken care of and dealt with while President Moon Jae-in and President Donald Trump are both in office. So why do you think that's important?
Well, as we already discussed, in 2007, there was some agreement, so to speak, made between Korean leader, Korean president, and Roh Moo-hyun, then president, and then North Korean leader Kim Jong-il. But the situations changed dramatically. New government was elected, in South Korea, and then the relations between North and South Korea was frozen because of the unexpected accident. So maybe on the part of the President Moon Jae-in, when he is the president of Korea, he wants to finalize all these procedures. Because as we know very well, when Roh Moo-hyun was the president, he was the chief secretary to the president. So he maybe knew almost everything what happened during this time. So he did not want to repeat the same mistake, I think.
So then, what are the chances that North Korea could demand some preconditions for denuclearization, such as the withdrawal of American troops from South Korea, which it has demanded before, and Washington and Seoul have continued to reject?
Negotiation is like a give and take, is based on give and take principle. So maybe the USA cannot ask unilaterally to North Korea, you should do that, you should not do that, something like that. Maybe USA should make some concession to give something to North Korea. Otherwise, North Korea will not give up their nuclear programs. The question is, what kind of things the USA government can give to the North Korea? As I already explained, maybe USA stop the hostile activities, measures against North Korea, including economic sanctions or something like that. But the problem lies in the fact that USA government has emphasized that the denuclearization of North Korea is the first.
Right, it comes first.
Yeah, it comes first, and then after that they can consider easing the economic sanctions against North Korea. So there must be some point which both sides should have to make every effort to reserve. But we have to wait.
We'll just have to wait and see if they reach that agreeing point there. Thank you so much for your insight today.
My pleasure.
And that brings us to the end of our program, but stay tuned to Arirang News for more domestic and global news updates throughout the day. Thanks for watching and goodbye.
call for peace on the peninsula from Germany. A nation that has unified first.
우리 정부는 아시아에서 이어지는 이 소중한 축제들을 한반도의 평화, 동북아와 세계의 평화를 만들어가는 계기로 만들 것을 북한에 제안합니다.
The first Olympics on the peninsula in 30 years. Miraculously, the visit to the north by the special envoy takes place, creating another chance at peace.
남과 북은 4월 말 판문점 평화의 집에서 제3차 남북 정상회담을 개최하기로 했으며
April 2018, South North Korea Summit. A historic first step to change begins. Arirang.
South and North Korea are stronger when we are together. The historic moments and the wave of peace created by one Korea stunned the world. The melody of hope sung together and the energetic reconciliation brought the spring of peace to the Korean peninsula. We are